Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Orange Life. Thanks for tuning in. This is Deanna. Thank you to new subscribers. Excuse me. I'm still getting to you guys' comments. I appreciate all you guys' comments, whether they're good or bad. So I really appreciate all that. Let me do my spiel and then we'll jump right into this video. My name is Deanna. For those who's clicking this video for the first time, I'm a psychiatric nurse. I've been a psych nurse for over 20 years. I've worked with children all the way up to the elderly. I've worked on high profile cases in my city, cases that's been in the news, and I've worked on treatment teams with the best psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, and psych techs in my town. Now, having said that, you see the thumbnail. Let's jump right into it. Oh boy, y'all. Ti and Tiny, I'm telling you, this stuff is getting crazy. I mean, it's accusations just about every month now with somebody. So Sabrina, let me make sure I'm right. Patterson. I was going to say Peterson. She has come out and has said that she has receipts that Ti and Tiny have been participating and taking people across state lines. Now, we don't know if it's true or not. They also said that Sabrina also said that King has participated in this activity, that they have passed off someone or maybe more than one person to King. So again, we don't know if this is true or not because again, you know, we just don't know when it comes to the celebrity world. Now, since Diddy's case and what his outcome is, this is kind of going to set the tone for these other cases. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I have participated in treatment teams with women who have been in these types of cases because sometimes with these cases they will ask for a psychological profile or an evaluation, and they will ask for attorneys and prosecution will ask for psychiatric notes, and this is where I come in at because some of my notes will be in these documents as well. And I'm going to tell you this. This is a mess. That's all I can say. This is a mess. Now, let me tell you why I'm not going to get into Diddy's case. I'm not doing that. But what I am going to discuss is how these things happen and how Diddy was able to get lesser charges than what he got, and he may or may not do a lot of time. I don't know. That's up to the judge. And what makes these cases so difficult to try. Ti and Tiny had this case before and it was thrown out. Now let me say this: there is a fine line with consent in some of these cases, unless there is a clear case of assault. And when I say clear case, where there is some sort of um, where there isn't consent in the very beginning all the way through. And in cases like that, it's usually some form of kidnapping or some sort of someone forces themselves on someone, when substances are not involved. See, when substances become involved, this is where it becomes tricky because if a young woman or man states that they believe they drank something that had something in it, that has to be proven. And then in some cases, these individuals will take substances not knowing the outcome, and that's the problem. So it's a real tricky line, and that's why some of these cases get thrown out because of the fact that when there is some level of consent, a lot of times people think that they consented to everything, and that was the thing with the with Diddy and Cassie, because I'm not getting into who's what. I'm not going to do that. What I'm gonna say is because there was some evidence of some sort of consent. I'm not saying she consented to everything. I'm saying some sort of consent regardless of her mental state. Because what I did notice about this trial is there was no psychiatric evaluations. There was nothing presented to the jury about the mindset of Cassie from 19 up until when she left Diddy. So I thought that was strange. But again, this is what they did. So with T.I. and Tiny, if this case does go to court, if there are charges, then whoever is coming forward, because if there are some receipts and if there are complaints, they have to prove about the consent. So let me just say this, and why this has been going on since in the entertainment world way before the 99 and the 2000s. And let me explain to you why. There's a couple things at play here. Number one, in the celebrity world, as far as uh, us regular folk think that celebrities do no wrong. They think because they get out there and smile and dance and act and talk nice that everyone involved are good people. And some of these celebrities are not good people. As you can see, we've seen other cases of, for example, the rumors with Trey Songz, with Chris Brown, and what happened with Rihanna and with Karuchi. We see these different things come up, and there are rumors of, other celebrities doing certain things to other celebrities. And a lot of times we feel like these people won't do anything wrong, and because most of us regular folk, we idolize or put these people on pedestals, we're willing to go with these people blindly if the opportunity presents itself, especially with younger people, because younger people tend to be the most vulnerable. Now, I'm not saying that there are not some older people involved in some of this stuff, but usually the average age of some of the when these accusations take place are between the ages of 17 to say 25. That's the average. I'm not saying they can't be older or younger. I'm saying that's like the average go rate there, because during that time the frontal lobe hasn't closed, so rationale, reasoning, and insight is not sharp during this time. And it's easier to manipulate a young mind during this time in someone's life. So, this is why these things are possible. So this has been going on for a long time, and it's really not going to change, because I mean we could just look at what's going on today. There are still women that are willing to be with Trey Songz even after all the rumors of abuse. There are still women who want to be with Chris Brown even after seeing that there was an actual assault case against Rihanna, and then what was happening with Karuchi, and then with Karuchi being seen with Chris Brown recently, that just knocks out all of that. Because why would you want to go back to someone who you claim victimized you? So again, that's why these lines are so fine. Now, we also have to look at the fact that women are not really protected. Women and children are not really protected in the law, in all honesty. The only time that women and children are protected is if there are severe cases like the Naziah Harris case. You know, when there are children that have truly been victimized, and when, the intent is there, and when you're dealing with younger people, under the age of 18, or in some cases if something was done brutally. Now there's another component to this. In all honesty, the average person who has not experienced any real trauma in their life, they cannot wrap their head around what a lot of these people are saying, because the human mind is actually not able to process trauma unless it happens to you. Now you can empathize and you could, say to yourself, well, that's right or wrong, but you really don't understand the magnitude that goes with that unless you've experienced the same thing. Usually, when it comes to anything dealing with any sort of trauma, those of us who haven't experienced it, we can look at it and say, you know what? This person was convicted of it. That's sad. That's crazy. That's insane, and we can say that. But mentally, we actually don't know the magnitude of it because we didn't experience it. The only people that know the magnitude are the people that actually experience it, what they go through mentally. Because when you go through a traumatic experience, especially in some sort of SA, domestic violence, there are aftermath. It's usually dreams and certain noises and smells, and certain places will trigger the event over and over again. You develop certain habits you didn't have before. You develop sometimes alternate personalities. It changes you forever. Trauma changes you forever. And this is why people who don't experience this level of trauma, they kind of don't wrap their head around it. That's why you have, especially with men don't understand what it feels like to be a woman and to be victimized or traumatized, because men don't have to worry about these things like women do. Women are preyed on even as little girls. And even though men are now being preyed on too and have been preyed on, it's still not of the rate of women. And that's a big problem. But again, like I said, the human mind is not able to process trauma unless it happens to you. And that's why a lot of times people don't believe this stuff. They don't believe, people look at the, Cassie and Diddy case and think that Cassie wanted it. She enjoyed it. Oh, it was this text message. But it's much more than that. It's so many layers to that. What goes on in someone's mind when they've been groomed or broken down. It's so much more, because the human mind always tries to protect itself. And in that protection, sometimes people develop alternate personalities, or they convince themselves that something isn't so bad, or um, it happens so many times that they get numb to it and it doesn't feel as bad. Or if they take enough substances, they'll forget about it. It's like so many things that go into this. So that's why, these cases are really hard to prosecute, because number one, the human mind has difficulty processing it. That's number one. And number two, consent. Because if you consent to go with Ti and Tiny to an after party, then if when you go into a court of law, they'll make it look like you consented to everything else. Because if you agreed to go to the next phase, then why would you change your mind when you get there? You're willing to go to the after party. You're willing to have a drink. How do we know that they did something to your drink? That would have to be proven. And if that's not proven, then prosecution can say, I mean, defense can say, we don't know that that happened. They went willingly. No one saw you being kidnapped. No one saw you being forced into a car. So when you don't see these types of actions, people tend to think, oh, they wanted to go. It's just a money grab, that kind of thing. But that's not always the case. It's always that fine white line, because there are some young women who will go, who will participate. There are some, young men and women that will do that, but there are also some young men and women who, believe that they're going with this celebrity and everything's going to be okay, or it's not going to be as bad as they think it is. For example, they may leave with a celebrity thinking, okay, I'm going to be with this person for the night. Then when you get there, it's three other people in the room and you didn't know that. And then when you're ready to leave, they're not letting you leave. And then the next thing you know, you're being passed around in a room. So once something like that happens, of course, the victim always feels shame and guilt. And then a lot of times they're scared to go to the police because of the simple fact of the shame that goes along with it, because you were willing to leave with that celebrity. That's what it is. It's that part. It's that part. When there's any level of consent, there's always that little teeter line. Did you consent to the rest of it? And that's why men think the way that they think. Because if you consent to leave with a man, if you consent to go with a man or go with a woman, whatever it may be, then they think that you consented to everything else. They only look at it differently if you were kidnapped or snatched off the street or stalked. They don't look at it, or someone breaks in your home, stuff like that. So that's why these cases are so difficult to try. So I guess we're going to see what happens with this. I don't know if anything is going to come out of this because, according to Sabrina, the feds have this information that, it's going to be charges coming. So we'll see what happens because, we don't know. This could just be, Sabrina just starting up for attention. Who knows? So we'll just wait and see. But best believe, I'm sure before the year is out, we're going to hear more accusations. We already heard about Tyler Perry. We just got finished with Diddy. It's been, if I'm not mistaken, there's been other accusations as well that haven't like really gone through yet, or because they're talking about Jay Z. That's another one. So it's still, other things going on here. But I'm sure before the year is out, we're going to hear about more. So I'm going to get off of here. You guys have a great one, and I'll be back soon.